I had some guys on a YouTube channel, several people now, say that the Honda is three-wheel drive. They may have been saying this because they saw that in some situations, when I'm going through a mud hole, one tire will spin and the other won't. It's a differential action, right? So one tire forward, the other one's backwards. And it's pretty much an open differential right now, right? So you'd say, okay, it's three-wheel drive. You are right. My Honda is three-wheel drive. In the same way that my Can-Am is three-wheel drive. Except that is really easy. I can spin that with one finger. The Honda does take some force to overcome the limited slip, even with the 31. So with the Can-Am in four-wheel drive and the Honda in four-wheel drive, they are both three-wheel drive. If anything, we'd say the Honda is slightly more than three-wheel drive, and the Can-Am is really three-wheel drive, right? However, the Honda has this little switch right here. When you flip this switch up, it locks the differential. See how the wheels move together now? You cannot spin one without the other. There is no clutch. There is no Visco crap bullshit. The wheels are fused together. When you flip that little switch, a locked differential does. What Can-Am does is when one wheel spins really, really fast, see it's barely starting to lock in there. It uses a Visco shear pump thing so that when one wheel's spinning way faster than the other one, it uses fluid pressure to engage some clutches to give you a locking mechanism. So at low speed in technical riding, you have no diff lock whatsoever, none. See how it just spins? No diff lock. But if you're going really, really fast, it'll start to lock in. By that time, your rear wheels have already dug a hole and you're stuck. Also, this depends on a really sensitive silicon fluid to work, and once that fluid starts to break down, you have no more locker or limited slip. Or once your clutches wear out, you have no locker or limited slip. Best case scenario, it is a limited slip. I would call it a torque-sensitive limited slip. The Honda has torque-sensitive limited slip as well. When it's not in diff lock mode, it acts kind of like the Can-Am does in four-wheel drive. The faster you spin this wheel, the more opposition you get to spinning it because of the way the spring and the little pawl mechanism work. But unlike Can-Am, it has a diff lock switch. When you lock that, bam, it's locked in. Huh, look at that. That is the definition of four-wheel drive. Just like my Lexus. This has a locker, this has a locker as advertised. In practice, this has a fancy overcomplicated limited slip that is useless for technical riding, only works at high speed. This gives you the option between a fancy limited slip that is useless at technical riding or a full locker for technical riding. Light years ahead of Can-Am. Locker works is really interesting. I never really understood it until I took it apart. It utilizes this limited slip as well as like the way a traditional locker works. Okay, so when you lock the differential, this collar piece here, which looks just like, I think they call it like a locker sleeve, it's usually sitting about here, right? Pins aren't going all the way through, they're just sitting right there. When you lock the differential, I'll show you later how this works, but a shift fork slides this in, therefore putting that through into these, right? Therefore locking this side gear solid to the carrier. By the way, that's way better than a brute force and that's never going to break. These pins fit snugly in here and they fit snugly in here. You're never going to break this locker. Actuator rotates this and that locks this over this selector. So there's two-wheel drive, there's four-wheel drive, limited slip, and then it rotates it a little bit farther and that brings up this. That little bit of motion right there with that shift fork slides the locker collar into the holes on the back side of the carrier, locking the one side gear, locking the, what are we calling these diamonds in the upward position, therefore locking the right side gear. The actuator, I had it apart just to check it out. It works just like any other actuator you've ever seen for anything. It's just a tiny electric motor, worm gear, gear reduction, and a compensator with some big springs so it can hold tension. So there's two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, four-wheel drive diff lock. And there's no speed sensor on this front diff, which is really interesting. For those of you that still don't understand how this works, so right now, it's a differential. I'm spinning one wheel forward, the other wheel is spinning backwards. I'm going to flip a switch here. When I'm flipping this switch, I'm closing a contact. The contact allows electrons to flow, because there's a battery creating a potential difference across it. Therefore, electrons flow through the wires. You need three things to have a motor. You need current, a conductor, and a magnetic field.
permanent magnet motor in there spins a worm gear, which spins a driven gear, a ring gear, which has a little actuator on it, like a servo, that turns a shift drum, which takes a shift fork, slides it this way, locks 3 hardened steel pins into the carrier, into the side gear, locking the differential. It is locked. You can't do that. When you press that button, the pieces of metal fuse together and the differential is no more. Just like the back diff. Visco, bullshit, fluid, witchcraft, hydro, queef, QE, whatever, locking bullshit. That's all a scam. It doesn't do anything. At all. Nothing at all. There's no locker on the Can-Am unless the wheels are spinning fast enough for that shear pump to generate enough pressure to push the clutches together and engage some sort of a limited slip. That's not a locker. This is a locker. Wheels are locked together. Wheels are not locked.